today for the Gita Jayanti. So we will chant today 108 important verses of Bhagavad Gita. And as we chant the 108 important verses, after every chapter, the important verses of every chapter, I'll give a short summary of that particular chapter. And then we'll go to the next chapter, chant the important verses of that chapter, and then again a summary. And this way we'll go on and honor the Bhagavad Gita today. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So can everyone see the 108 important shlokas screen? Okay, I take that as a yes. So let's together, we can chant the first verse. And in the first chapter, only the first verse is one of the 108 important verses. So we'll chant the first verse and then discuss on the summary of chapter 1. Dhritarashtra Vacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim Makurvata Sanjaya. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Shri Krishna Yoga Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyayaha. So, Bhagavad Gita, as we know, have 18 chapters with 700 verses totally. And these are the names of the chapters in Sanskrit of the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So we just read the first chapter, the verse from the first chapter. And basically here it is more or less an introduction of the entire chapter. And we understand that this chapter 1 is broken into two sections. First section is the introduction. The second section is Arjuna's different reasons why he does not want to fight. And in the introduction, Bhagavad Gita explains about how the war is being prepared in the first 11 verses, then talks about how in Kurukshetra there were signs of victory of Pandavas. And Sanjaya was actually relaying this to Dhritarashtra, indirectly telling him, look, the Pandavas are going to win. And then next subsection is, it describes how Krishna cares for his devotees. Bhakta Vatsala quality of Krishna. And then after that, Sanjaya, when he describes to Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya starts describing what Arjuna is actually telling Krishna. And Arjuna is giving different reasons. You know what? We should not fight. And this Arjuna is saying, when the conch shells have blown, which means the fight is about to start any moment, and he feels, I cannot fight. So Krishna takes him in the middle of both the armies. And there, Arjuna is trying to tell him, what is the use of this war? He gives reasons of compassion towards other living beings. So many people are going to die. Who is going to, even if after killing all of them, if I have to enjoy the kingdom, what is the use of that kingdom which has been built on the corpses of my relatives? And then another reason he says, wouldn't we get so many sinful reactions? Wouldn't the family traditions be destroyed because so many soldiers will be killed? Their wives and family will get widowed, and then unscrupulous men may come and exploit these unprotected women of the soldiers. And that will give rise to unwanted progeny, Varna Sankara. And then he says, you know, Krishna, I'm just confused by my own arguments. I just don't know what to do. And that's where chapter 1 ends. So we read some verses from chapter 2. There are a lot of verses from chapter 2 which are part of the 108 important verses. So we will read that together. It'll take about 3 to 4 minutes to complete chapter 2 verses, and then we'll give a summary of that. Karpanya doshopahata svabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetah yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Shri Bhagavan uvacha ashotyanan vashochastvam pragyavadamscha bhashase gatasunagatasumscha nanushochanti pandita natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipa nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam atah param dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति मात्रस्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्णसुखदुःखदाः आगमापायिनो नित्यास्तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयाः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकाः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्ध्रुवं जन्ममृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि देहि नित्यम् अवध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि नेहाभिक्रमनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात् व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिरेकेह कुरु नन्दन बहुशाखा हि अनन्ताश्च बुद्धयो अव्यवसायिनां भोगैश्वर्यप्रसक्तानां तया परितचेतसां व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विधीयते त्रैगुण्या विषया वेदा निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थो निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान् यावान् अर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः सम्प्लुतोदके तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते सङ्गात् संजायते कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमाः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति रागद्वेषविमुक्तैस्तु विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा प्रसादम् अधिगच्छति या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे सांख्ययोगो नाम द्वितीयोऽध्यायः। So in the first chapter, Arjuna, he presents more doubts and reasons not to fight. But in the second chapter, he gets completely confused. And this chapter is famous because Arjuna's relationship with Krishna changes from a friend to a guru. And so in second chapter, he continues his further reasons for not fighting, And finally he says, Arjuna, Krishna, Karpanya doshopahata svabhava. I have been overcome by weakness. I'm confused by my own arguments. Now I surrender to you. Shadhimam tvam prapannam. Please instruct me. And as soon as Arjuna surrenders to Krishna, so far, before Arjuna says this verse in 2nd chapter that I surrender to you, Krishna is not giving any instructions. Krishna speaks, but those are not instructions to Arjuna, because Arjuna has not yet accepted Krishna as his guru. But now, after this verse, Krishna starts giving instruction to Arjuna. This is the truth. That's how Krishna authoritatively says. And the first thing he does when Arjuna surrenders is Krishna chastises him. Ashochan anvashochastvam pragyavadamscha bhashyase. You think you are talking very intelligent things, but actually you are lamenting for things that are not to be lamented. You are lamenting for the body. But what is really important is the soul. You are forgetting about the spiritual progress of the soul. And then he starts the instruction of the distinction between body and soul. And ultimately, Krishna gives many reasons from the perspective of jnana, why to fight, saying that you are the soul. All of these people are souls. They are not bodies. If you kill them, the body anyway is going to die. So if you kill them, their soul is actually going to get into heavenly planets. And so through jnana, he convinces Arjuna to fight. Then through karma kanda, he says, okay, if you are not even agreeing about body and soul, although Arjuna agrees about it, but he says, look, there is other reasons for you to fight. Karma kanda. In the 1st chapter, Arjuna was giving reasons not to fight. In the 2nd chapter, Krishna gives him reasons why to fight. And karma kanda, he says, if these soldiers, they die on the battlefield, they will go to heavenly kingdom. And by fighting, they will actually get more fame. No sin comes if you're fighting for the right cause. Then therefore fight. Then he gives examples from Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, why to fight, telling you should fight without thinking of any of the result, because it's not in your hands. And he'll elaborate this further in the next chapter. And just do your action without detachment, with detachment from the fruit of work. And then he says, what are the different sthita pragya, what are the different symptoms of someone who is resolute in their purpose, whose consciousness is in samadhi. And then he says, therefore you should fight in samadhi. Samadhi, he gives the symptoms of people who are sthita pragya, who are fixed in intelligence. And by working in Buddhi Yoga, you will become detached and equipoised, and therefore you should fight. So we'll read the chapter 3 important verses. Yagyarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava yadyad acharati shreshthas tattadevetaro janah sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Shri Bhagavan uvacha kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidhiyenam iha vairinam. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Yogo Nama Tritiyodhyayaha. So here, actually, Krishna is trying to explain. In the second chapter, Krishna told Arjuna that keep all your abominable activities distant from the Buddhi Yoga. And Arjuna thinks that Buddhi means intelligence. But chapter 3 begins with a question where Arjuna is clarifying this contradiction, that if I have to use my intelligence, then I should not fight. But why are you urging me to fight? Because according to Arjuna, jnana and work are incompatible. That if you are doing jnana yoga, you can't do karma yoga. That's what he thinks. So here, first it starts with Arjuna asking if it is better to be situated in knowledge or better to do some work. And then Krishna explains that there are different kinds of karma yoga. There is Nishkam karma yoga, where you perform karma connected to Krishna, but no expectation in return. Then he explains how one can go from karma kanda to karma yoga, which means if you cannot do Nishkam karma yoga, you cannot be detached, then do karma yoga and do for Krishna's pleasure. And then he said, but when you are doing this Nishkam Karma Yoga, just for the satisfaction of Krishna, there are some impediments. And these impediments are Kama Esha Krodha Esha, lust and anger. And he says, lust is the source of all the problems that we have. If lust is not satisfied, we become angry. Lust does not just mean physical bodily lust, but any material desire that we obsess about. That is lust for those material things. If it is not satisfied, it leads to anger. If lust is satisfied, it leads to greed. Because no one has ever said that, yes, I got this material thing, now I'm satisfied. No, they say, let's go for more and more and more. And that leads to greed. So Krishna tells, where does lust reside in the body? And how we can overcome the lusty desires for material things. So this is the overview of chapter 3. Then we go to chapter 4. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshvakave Bravit Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshayo Viduh Sakale Neha Mahata Yogo Nashtah Parantapa Saevayam Mayatedya Yoga Prokta Puratana Bhaktosi Me Sakha Cheti Rahasyam Hietaduttamam Ajopi Sannavyayatma Bhutanam Ishvaropi San Prakritim Swamadhisthaya Sambhavamyatma Mayaya Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bharata Abhyuthanam Adharmasya Tadatmanam Srajamyaham Paritranaya Sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritah bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamágatah ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanuvartante manushya partha sarvashah chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashah tasya kartaram apimam vidhi akartaram avyayam tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaः iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Chaturtha Dhyayah. I just wanted to make sure that you're able to see the PowerPoint of the slide and the verses as well. Is that correct?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavad Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, great. So chapter 4, in chapter 3, we understood that Krishna explained lust covers our knowledge and ignorance binds us. So in the same way, now he is telling about chapter 3 glorifies transcendental knowledge because it elevates us from Sakama Karma Yoga to Nishkam Karma Yoga. It awards us intelligence and the strength to overcome lusty desires, this transcendental knowledge, and gives us the power to purify our consciousness. Now, chapter 4 emphasizes what is transcendental knowledge and how you can achieve. Chapter 3 tells about the glories of transcendental knowledge. And Arjuna is like, okay, so what is this transcendental knowledge? And Krishna explains what is transcendental knowledge in chapter 4. And he says that transcendental knowledge is knowledge about God, about Krishna. Now, in the first 6 chapters, Krishna refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the third person. He does not say, I am God. But he says, oh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is like this. You can achieve the Supreme Personality. And then from 7th chapter, he starts saying, you know what? That Supreme Personality of Godhead I was talking to you about in the first 6 chapters, that is me. And so 7th chapter to 12th chapter, he is telling about how Krishna himself is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But so far he says transcendental knowledge about God you can achieve by disciplic succession. He gives some hints in between, but he doesn't openly proclaim that I am the Supreme in the first 6 chapters. And then he says, whoever understands my activities and truth and birth, about my activities and birth, he will attain transcendental knowledge. And then how to apply transcendental knowledge. And he explains that how we can understand karma on the different platform of jnana. What is karma? What is vikarma? What is akarma? Every good action has good reaction. Negative action has bad reaction. Sinful action has bad reaction. But can we perform action in such a way that there is no material reaction? There is a spiritual reaction, but no material reaction. That is called akarma. So Krishna explains the concept of akarma, karma and vikarma here. And then he says, if you want transcendental knowledge, then perform sacrifices. And sacrifices that lead, sacrifice of our time and energy and our money, whatever we are using, whatever we are accruing, use it in the service. That will lead to transcendental knowledge. And ultimately he says, to get transcendental knowledge, you need to get it in disciplic succession. And he explains the disciplic succession of how this knowledge was given to different disciplic successions. And in Padma Purana also it says there is Shri Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya, and Rudra Sampradaya. You can get transcendental knowledge from these 4 sampradayas, which are even present today. And ISKCON is part of the Brahma Sampradaya, where Krishna gave knowledge to Brahma, who gave to Narada, who gave to Vyasadeva, who gave knowledge to Madhvacharya, and in this way it came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and finally to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so this is chapter 4. Let's go to chapter 5. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Svapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina Yehi Samsparshaja Bhoga Dukkhayonaya Evate Adyantavanta Konteya Nateshu Ramate Buddha Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. Hari Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Yoga Shastre Okay, let me say again. Hari Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Panchamodhyayaha. So here in chapter 5, Krishna is explaining Karma Yoga in much more detail. That actually Nishkam Karma Yoga, that means engaging in work without any expectation in return, is much easier to do than simply renouncing work. Some yogis say, okay, any work I do, I get reactions to it, so let me just go to the forest and just not do anything. But they don't realize that even if they are sitting, they are killing some living entities. When they are breathing, they are killing living entities. They are going to get reactions for that as well. And Krishna explains that you cannot, if someone has some propensity in our bodies to work as a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or as like a businessman or administrative, we cannot stop ourselves. Even if we go in the forest, our propensities will force us to act in certain ways. So it's better to act, but act in such a way that it does not give any reaction back. And then he explains the secret of how to perform this Nishkam Karma Yoga, where we don't identify with our body, but we identify with the soul. And we identify how to do this for the pleasure of Krishna. And then he says, you think some people who are attached to their body, they think that we are the doers. But actually there are three other doers. The soul is the doer, yes, but the super soul is also the doer, the Paramatma who sanctions those activities. And doer number 3 is one who attains enlightenment through that knowledge. And how we can attain liberation by focusing, meditating on the super soul, the Paramatma within the heart. And slowly, slowly he is making him realize the Paramatma aspect of God. And then he gives a preview of Ashtanga Yoga, which he will explain in detail in chapter 6. And that's why when we end each chapter, we say, Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre, Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. This conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna is the original Yoga Shastra. So when the yoga studios want to understand about yoga, this is the original Yoga Shastra. This tells what the purpose of yoga is. And then finally, he ends chapter 5 with the peace formula, where he says that if we can understand that Krishna is the enjoyer, that Krishna is the controller, that Krishna is our well-wisher, if everyone understands this and acts on this platform, there will be peace in the whole world. So we go to chapter 6. Yuktahara viharasya yuktacetasa karmasu yuktasvapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha prapya punyakritam lokan usitva shashvati samah shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga bhrashto bhijayate yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam sameyukta tamo matah. Hari Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Atma Samyama Yogo Nama Shashtodhyayaha. So now Krishna is talking about Dhyana Yoga in chapter 6, where he says that actually yoga means to link our consciousness with the Supreme Consciousness in love. And how we can advance in yoga by performing work in a detached manner. And how the Ashtanga yogis, the yogis who perform yam, niyama, asana, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, these 8-fold process of yoga, they also engaged in detached work to advance. And then he talks about the yoga rudha stage, where a yogi, they may give up Nishkam Karma Yoga, but the mind may still have lust, pride, greed, envy, anger, attachments. And so Yoga Rudha stage is when you have given up all of the Shat Vikara, 6 anarthas in the mind. Then Krishna further says that if you keep performing Ashtanga Yoga, which later on he will say is not practical in this age of Kali Yuga. Very, very difficult. First of all, it's difficult to find forests. Even if we are able to find the forests, we won't be able to meditate properly because a snake may pass through, a tiger may come, and we'll be full of fear. We are not trained to control our senses in that way. So, especially in Kali Yuga, Ashtanga Yoga is very impractical. But then it says we need to control the mind, and then Arjuna says, the mind, I can control the wind with my arrows, but I can't control my mind. How can I control my mind? And Krishna gives two secrets. Abhyasena tu konteya, vairagyena cha guhyati. By practice and detachment, we can control the mind. And then he says, Arjuna asks, suppose I start performing this yoga process that you're talking about. And if I'm not able to control my mind, then I'm neither here nor there. At least either I would enjoy fully without any restriction, but now that I'm in the spiritual process to control my mind and restraining my senses, if I'm not successful and I'm not able to reach the ultimate stage, now I'm neither enjoying nor getting the higher stage. I'm stuck. So Krishna says, no. Whatever advancement you make in this life, in the next life, you will start from there. So if we have made 5% advancement towards Krishna consciousness in this life, in the next life we'll start from that 5%. And many of you who are here are here because of your interest that is developed from your past life. And then he explains the destination of an unsuccessful yogi, that unsuccessful yogi is born in the family of brahmanas, where they are trained in spiritual life from the beginning, and their interest, and they continue from where they left off. And then Krishna says, yes, Ashtanga Yoga is good, but you know who is the topmost yogi? The topmost yogi, the final verse of 6th chapter, he says, is Madgater Antaratmana, who in his mind always thinks of me and renders transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord. He is the highest of all. That is my opinion, is Krishna ends with, Matir Mama. So Krishna is still not forcing Arjuna. He's just saying, this is my opinion, take it or leave it. And Krishna maintains this throughout Bhagavad Gita. But he tells, this is what the result would be if you do this. This is the result if you do another thing. Now you decide what you should do. So we go to chapter 7. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataam api siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha bhumirapo nalo vayu kham mano buddhireva cha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashthada apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat mattah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mayi sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva daivi hiyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhamah mayaya paritagyana asuram bhavamashritah chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritinorjuna arto jigyasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarishabha bahunam janmanam ante Jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti Samahatma sudurlabha Naham prakasha sarvasya Yogamaya samavrita Mudhoyam nabhijanati Loko mamajamavyayam Vedaham samatitani Vartamanani charjuna Bhavishyani cha bhutani Mam tu vedana kaschana Ichha dvesha samuthena Dvandva mohena bharata Sarva bhutani sammoham Sarge yanti parantapa Yesham tvantagatam papam Jananam punya karmanam Te dvandva moha nirmukta Bhajante mam dridhavrata Antakale cha mameva. Sorry, this is the end of chapter 7 verses. Hari Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Jnana Vijnana Yogo Nama Saptamodhyayaha. So here in chapter 7, this is where chapter 1 to 6 is talking about Karma Yoga. But now Krishna is starting to talk about Bhakti Yoga. And there is a shift in his tone where Krishna explains, Hare Krishna, can we please mute ourselves? We can hear someone chanting. Thank you. So here there is a shift in his tone where Krishna starts addressing himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he says that Supreme Personality that I was referring to in first 6 chapters, that is me. And he talks about the knowledge of the Absolute. And he says, Tat Shrinum. That's how Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter starts. Just here. Krishna requests Arjuna, hear from me about the material energy and spiritual energy. And he declares that one who succeeds in truly knowing him as Krishna is very, very rare. And then Krishna explains his own material energies and spiritual energies. And he says, I am the source of all the material and spiritual energies. And then he says that this material energy is made up of the 3 modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna, which will be explained in detail in chapter 14. But he just mentions and introduces here. He says it's very, very difficult to overcome. But I control these modes. If you surrender to me, I will relieve you from these modes. And then he says, but you know what? I'm telling to surrender, but there are 4 kinds of people who surrender and 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to me. Those who are pious, they surrender, and the best of those who surrender is the Jnani. And those who do not surrender, they are not so pious. And he gives 4 categories of people who do not surrender. And then he says, there are others who surrender, but not to me, but to other devatas and to impersonalism. That is avidhi purvakam. That surrendering to devatas, ultimately it will come to me, but in an indirect way. And if you really want fast progress, you must surrender directly. Because if we surrender to demigods, we may get distracted from the spiritual path, to come back to Krishna. And then he says that living entities get bewildered because they see dualities of Maya. And if you want freedom, then perform bhakti, devotional service unto me. And so the Acharyas explain that the first 6 chapters are Karma Yoga, the last 6 chapters are Jnana Yoga, and the middle 6 chapters from 7 to 12 is Bhakti Yoga. So 18 chapters are divided into 6, 6, 6, and it's explained like a procession, marriage procession, doli, where the bride is in the middle, and karma and jnana are on 2 sides, holding the carriage of the bride. And the bride, who's bhakti yoga, the most important, is in the middle, 7 to 12. And then later on in 18th chapter, Krishna gives the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita also as bhakti yoga is the highest. So this is the summary for chapter 7. We go to chapter 8. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshaya yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajantyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti konteya sada tad bhava bhavita tasmat sarveshu kaleshu manusmara yudhya mayi arpita mano buddhir mame vaishyasi samshaya ananya cheta satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginah mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gatah abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu konteya punarjanmana vidyate vedeshu yagyeshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamodhyayaha. So in 8th chapter, it's titled Attaining the Supreme, where Krishna answers different questions of Arjuna. Arjuna had asked, in the end of 7th chapter, he ended the chapter with several questions. What is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adhibhuta? What is Adhideva? What is Adhiyagya? All of these questions are answered by Krishna in this 8th chapter. And then ultimately he says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. If you remember me at the time of death, you will come to me. Whoever you remember at the time of death, that state of consciousness you will attain in the next life. But in order to remember Krishna at the time of death, we must practice remembrance through meditation on Krishna. And then he says, but if you remember me through active devotional service, constant engagement in devotional service, you will definitely come to me. And then Krishna compares the material world to spiritual world. He says the material world is a creation, but it's destroyed. And then again created, again destroyed, again created. But there is something beyond this, which is eternal, which is neither created nor destroyed. It's eternal, and that is the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, where I reside. So that is where Krishna explains the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. 9th chapter, Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam Maya Tatamidam Sarvam Jagat Avyakta Murtina Matsthani Sarvabhutani Na Chaham Teshvavasthita Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate Avajananti Mam Mudha Manushim Tanumashritam Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram Moghasha Mogha Karmano Mogha Jnana Vichetasa Rakshasim Masurim Chaiva Prakritim Mohinim Shrita Mahatmanastu Mam Partha Devim Prakritim Ashrita Bhajantyananya Manaso Gyatva Bhutadim Avyayam Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantascha Dridhavrata Namasyantascha Mam Bhaktya Nityayukta Upasate Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham Yanti Devavrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitravrata Bhutani Yanti Bhutejya Yanti Madhyo Ayajinopi Mam Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparitam ashnami prayatatmana yat karoshi yadashnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyah Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya Mayi te teshu chapyaham Api chet suduracharo Bhajate mam ananya bhak Sadhureva samantavya Samyak vyavasito hisah Mam hi parthavya pashritya Ye pisyu papayonayah Striyo vaishyas tatha shudras Tepi yanti param gatim manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha iti hari om tatsat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Raja Vidya Yogo Nama Navamodhyayaha. So in chapter 9, Krishna is now going deeper into confidential, more confidential, and the most confidential knowledge. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, he's talking about. This is the king of knowledge, but also Raja Guhyam, the king of confidentiality. And he says, who can hear this most confidential knowledge? What are the qualifications and disqualifications of those? Those who are envious of Krishna, they cannot understand this most confidential knowledge. Then he talks about Aishwarya Jnana, which is how Krishna pervades and creates and annihilates throughout this universe and the material world. And he says there are two kinds of people. There are the fools and there are the devotees. Devotees, the fools, they neglect bhakti, but the devotees, they do not. And then Krishna explains about the glories of devotional service. What is the glory of pure devotional service? And how Krishna says, I am equal to everyone, but equal to everyone in the sense, however they reciprocate with me, I reciprocate with them equally in that same way. So if someone loves me, I reciprocate by loving him. If someone neglects me, I reciprocate by neglecting him relatively. But Krishna gives all the ways in which that person can sustain and live, but does not give prema bhakti. He gives only to those who want. So he's equal, but his equality is, as you reciprocate with me, I will reciprocate with you accordingly. So this is chapter 9. If we go to chapter 10. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita machchita madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te tesham evanukam partham aham agyanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavastho jnanadipena bhasvata. Arjuna uvacha param brahma param dhama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adidevam acham vibhum ahustvam rishaya sarve devarshir naradastatha asito devalo vyasa swayam chaiva bravishime yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Shrimad urjitam eva va tat tat eva vagachatvam mama tejom shasambhavam iti Haryom tatsat iti Shrimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamodhyayaha. So chapter 10 is called the opulence of the absolute. And here Krishna goes deeper into explaining about how Krishna is pervading in every little thing in the universe. He says that it is very difficult to understand Krishna's origin because he is eternal. There is no beginning, no end. But Krishna is the source of all the opulences that we see. If we see any rich person, Krishna is the source of that rich. If we are attracted to a person who's very wise and knowledgeable, Krishna is the source of that knowledge. If we see someone who's very beautiful, Krishna is the source of that beauty. That is what Krishna is explaining here. If we see someone who is very powerful, Krishna is the source of that strength. And in this way, in this chapter 10, there is Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, which means the essence of Bhagavad Gita in 4 shlokas is given in this chapter 10, from chapter 10.8 to 10.11, where Krishna explains that I am the source of everything. My devotees are very eager to love me and serve me, and I am very eager to serve those devotees. And my devotees converse amongst each other about me, and then their ignorance goes away. So this is the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. And hearing this, all of these, especially chapters 7 to 10 so far, Krishna's opulence, and his position, Arjuna accepts Krishna. I accept. In 10th chapter, first time he accepts, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I accept that. Please tell me more about your opulences. And Arjuna says, not only me, there are so many Asita, Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, all these rishis are accepting you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Krishna says that my opulences are limitless, but what I have described you is just a drop in the ocean of my opulences. So this is chapter 10. We go to chapter 11. Bhaktya tu ananya shakya ahamevam vidhorjuna gyatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa matkarma krinmato matparamo madbhakta sangavarjita nirvaira sarvabhuteshu yah samameti pandava. Hari Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vishvarupa Darshana Yogo Nama Dhyayaha. Now we are going to 11th chapter. The Ekodasha Adhyaya. The universal form, where Krishna is now described in 10th chapter about the opulence. Now he is showing his universal form. Because Arjuna, after hearing the opulence, is what he said, I accept you as supreme, tell me more about yourself. So then Krishna expands and shows his universal form, the Vishwarupa, the Virat Rupa or Vishwarupa. And Sanjay, he describes what Arjuna is seeing, that all the soldiers are going into Krishna's mouth, and there are thousands and thousands of heads, and of all the devatas are within Krishna, and then all the demons, they are actually, the death time, Kala, is devouring everything, going into Krishna's mouth. And Krishna says, in this universal form, time I am, and become my instrument. This is the verse which was quoted by Oppenheimer when he saw the atom bomb explode. He remembered this verse of Bhagavad Gita in 11th chapter. Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravriddho. Time I am, the destroyer of the worlds. Therefore, nimitta matra bhavya savyasachi, which means become my instrument. Because all these, I have already killed everyone. I want to give you the glory, be my instrument. And then Arjuna is trembling, looking at this universal form of Krishna, and he begs his forgiveness. I must have spoken to you in an offensive manner, thinking that you are my friend, but you are this Supreme Personality of Godhead, oh Krishna. And he says, please, can I request you to come back in your two-handed Madhava form? And Krishna agrees and comes back. Only pure devotees can perceive Krishna in the two-handed, two-armed form. And Krishna says, you as a devotee should meditate on my two-handed form. This universal form is for the impersonalists to understand. So this is chapter 11. We go to chapter 12, entitled Devotional Service. Here Krishna is explaining actually, directly, how to perform bhakti, Krishna's bhakti. Klesho dhiktarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhir avapyate mai eva manad adhatsva mai buddhim niveshaya nivasishyasi mayyeva ataurdhvam na samshaya atha chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayi sthiram abhyasayogena tato mamichhaptum dhananjaya abhyasepi asamarthosi matkarma paramo bhava madartham api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. Hari Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyayaha. Here Krishna is saying that bhakti is better than meditating on the impersonal form of Krishna. And klesho dhiktaras tesham, it's very miserable to just meditate on impersonal. There is no rasa, there is no happiness. And therefore, those who just meditate on impersonal form, they fall down to material platform. But if you perform bhakti, we can stay in the spiritual platform forever. And then he says, just surrender unto me, fix your mind and intelligence on me. But if you cannot do that, then 24 hours you cannot fix your mind and intelligence on me, then why don't you follow the regulative principles? Just say, okay, for 2 hours I will remember Krishna. I will chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Follow the regulative principles. If you cannot do that, then whatever work you are doing, then surrender to Krishna. If you cannot even do that, then give it to some good cause. If you cannot even do that, then at least cultivate some knowledge, associate with devotees. So Krishna is giving the highest and saying, if you cannot do this, then do this. If you cannot do, then at least do this. If not this, then at least this. And there is progressive stages of devotion that he is explaining. And then he says, I will tell you who is dear to me. These are very important verses where if we want to become dear to Krishna, Krishna says, those who has divine qualities, and he explains those divine qualities, that person is very dear to me. One who is very faithful in devotional service, in bhakti, he is very dear to me. One who makes Krishna as the supreme goal of life is very dear to me. So this is the secret of becoming dear to Krishna and pleasing him. So we go to the next, I think for 13th chapter, there is no verse amongst the 108 important verses. But 13th chapter talks about what is nature, who is the enjoyer, and what is consciousness. Arjuna had asked 6 questions, and Krishna explains what is activity, what is the field of activities, who is the knower of those fields. And then he explains the knowledge, the process of how we can get knowledge, how we can get liberation through that knowledge. And then Krishna explains who is the object of that knowledge, what is the purpose of that knowledge. And the purpose of that knowledge is to ultimately surrender to Krishna. Then Krishna explains what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, and what is union of Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti is the material nature. Purusha is the supreme enjoyer of that material nature, which is only Krishna. We think we are the enjoyers, but actually Krishna is the enjoyer of this material world. And we are the enjoyed. We are part of the Prakriti, the Bhinna Prakriti. The Prakriti, we are the part of the spiritual nature. And then he said how you can get Jnana Chakshu. We hear, we see by our eyes, but how can we see by our wisdom? That is real seeing. Seeing by our wisdom is real seeing rather than seeing through the eyes. Eyes can be deceitful. We can only see the Vibgyor range. We cannot see ultraviolet infrared rays, and there are so many optical illusions that we may get into. But if we see with the Jnana Chakshu, the eyes of knowledge, through our ears, then we will actually be successful in spiritual life. Then we go to chapter 14, the modes of material nature. Hold on, this is not scrolling down. Yep. Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yah Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradapita Mam Chavyo Avyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatitaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate Brahmano hi pratisthaham amritasya avyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya ekantikasya cha. Hari Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogo Nama Chaturdashodhyayaha. So in chapter 14, Krishna is explaining what are the three modes of nature, the Sattva Guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. The mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, which is prevalent everywhere in the material world, even within our minds. And there are different things in the material world which affect our mind in the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. How can we understand which is the dominant mode in ourselves? He explains the qualities of people who are in different modes. And then he says there is charity in the three modes of nature. There is sacrifice in the three modes of nature. There is food in the three modes of nature, Sattva Gun, Rajogun, Tamagun. And after explaining the three modes, he explains how to transcend the three modes, how to come to Shuddha Sattva level. And that happens if we completely absorb ourselves in devotional service. So that's chapter 14. We come to chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha samgyair gachantyamudha padamavyayam tat natad bhashayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama mamayvamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashashtanindriyani prakriti sthani karshati sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha Vaidaishcha sarvairahame vyavedyo Vedanta krit veda videva chaham Yo mam evam asammudho Janati purushottamam Sasarvavid bhajati mam Sarvabhavena bharata. Hari Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottama Yogo Nama Panchamodashadhyayaha. So this is Purushottam Yoga, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. It is recommended that at least if we are not able to chant all the chapters, we must chant chapter 12 and chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita. All the verses of chapter 12 and chapter 15, they are very small chapters, but if we chant those, that will give us a lot of spiritual benefits. So here in Yoga of the Supreme Person, after telling about the three modes and how to transcend the three modes, Krishna is saying how to become detached from this material world. And he says the goal should be to detach from the material world while working, while doing our duties in the material world, be in a detached manner, but attached to Krishna. Detached from matter, attached to Krishna, and make our goal to go back home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. And then he explains, don't be afraid. I am your maintainer. And he talks about what is Veda and what is Vedanta, Vedanta. The end of Veda means knowledge. Vedanta is the end of all knowledge, which is bhakti. And then if we understand Krishna, we understand everything. We can do PhDs on a tip of a grass, of what this grass is made up of, and big thesis of PhD. It doesn't matter. But if we can do PhD on Krishna, then everything else is included in that. And understand Krishna's position. So that's chapter 15. I think it's got stuck again. Okay. Chapter 16 and 17 have no important verses in the 108 important verses. So we'll go to just discuss chapter 16 and 17. Chapter 16 is divine and demoniac natures. And he says, what are the transcendental qualities? There are 26 divine qualities of people who are divine. These are the 26 qualities. And then there are 6 demoniac qualities. In many of us, we will see divine as well as demoniac. When we read these qualities, we'll say, yeah, wow, I'm 26 divine qualities. These are in me. And then when we come to the demoniac qualities, we can relate to that as well. And we have both these qualities within ourselves. In Satya Yuga, the divine and demoniac were in separate planets. In Treta Yuga, they were in the same planet, just like Rama and Ravana, but in different countries. In Dwapar Yuga, they were in the same family, like Krishna and Kamsa. But in Kali Yuga, guess what? These divine and demoniac qualities are in the same person. And so he explains about the demoniac nature and how to overcome these demoniac tendencies. There is the good dog and the bad dog, and how to empower the good dog so that we don't get influenced by the bad dog. And it's our choice. Whichever quality we feed, that quality will grow. And whichever quality we neglect, that quality will go down. In this material world, in Kali Yuga, we are encouraged to feed our demoniac qualities, and so they grow. And we are encouraged to neglect the divine qualities, and so they go down. But of all the demoniac qualities, lust, anger and greed are the 3 gates to hellish planets that Krishna says. Kama, Krodha and Lobha. And everyone should give it up. Even if those urges come, instead of acting on those urges, we must take shelter of Krishna and overcome these demoniac natures. Then chapter 17 is entitled The Divisions of Faith, where Krishna says that, in fact, the 3 modes of nature, based on your mode, you will be attracted to a particular devata or a demigod. But ultimately, you should, if you want spiritual progress, you must surrender to me. Then he talks about the foods in different modes, the sacrifices in different modes, austerity in the mode of goodness, austerity in the mode of passion, austerity in the mode of ignorance. And then he says that all of the activities in any way are contaminated by the modes. But if we perform charity, sacrifices, austerity, and eat food offered to Krishna, then we will be able to go above these three modes. Then we come to chapter 18, which is called the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. Shamo damastapa shaucham kshantirarjavameva cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram Machchita sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi atha chetvam ahankaran na shroshyasi vinakshyasi. Ishvara sarva bhutanam riddashe riddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya manmana madabhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. This is a very important verse because the first two lines of this verse is the only two lines that are repeated twice in Bhagavad Gita, which shows us that so dear these two lines are for Krishna, that always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah yaidam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshvabhidasyati bhaktim mayi param kritva mame vaishyati asamshaya nacha tasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakrittamah bhavita nacha me tasmad ananya priyataro bhuvi yatra yogeshvaro krishno yatra partho dhanurdhara tatra shrir vijayo bhutir dhruva nitir matir mama. Hari Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Moksha Sannyasa Yogo Nama Ashtadashodhyayaha. So this is the 18th chapter where Krishna is explaining. This is like the summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is talking about, because in the entire Bhagavad Gita he spoke about Karma Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, then Ashtanga Yoga. Then from 7 to 12 he spoke about Bhakti Yoga. Similarly, now he's again talking about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and then he talks about the three modes of nature again, of how we can get reaction, free from the reaction of the three modes of nature. Then he starts talking about bhakti, about pure, how we can work in pure devotional service, from sakam karma yoga to nishkam karma yoga to bhakti yoga. How do we transition that? And then he says, gives the final instruction. He says, if you surrender unto me, I will abandon all these varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I will relieve you of all the sins. Do not fear. This is the final instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Not the final verse, but the final instruction that Krishna gives. After that, Krishna speaks, but he stops giving instructions. And then Krishna says, Yathechasi tatha kuru. Whatever you feel best, now you can do. I have given you everything that is to be known in the world. In 45 minutes, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. And now you do what you want to do. And then he says, one who explains the science of Bhagavad Gita to others is very, very dear to me. Ya idam, the verse that he was saying here is Nachatasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakrittama, that there is no one more dear to me than he. Ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshva vidasyati, for one who explains this supreme secret to devotees, devotional service is guaranteed. So that's why he says we should preach, we should share this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita with as many people as possible in a way that's relevant to them. And then that will make us dear to Krishna. There is no one, no servant in this world more dear to me than he who shares this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, nor will there ever be one more dear. So this is the final conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you for all of your patience. It was a 1.5 hour discussion. I wasn't expecting it to go so long, but thank you so much for listening attentively. If there are any questions or comments, we can take now.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Radhe.
Hare Krishna, Radhe Radhe. Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah, thank you so much for beautifully explaining us all the 18 chapters. It was such a beautiful gist, like, early morning, and wishing everyone a very, very happy Gita Jayanti. And Krishna is Jagat Guru. He is, like what you said, 2.7 Karpana Dosha. Once we surrender to him, and he will enlighten us. And I think so. Always I feel Arjuna is the best student and he's the best teacher, answering all our questions and हमारा ज्ञान दूर कर रहे हैं. And we are really, I know that my Bhabhi ji is not here, so just missing her because always so used to seeing her with you. But thanks a lot taking out so much time, and you know, your association is always so wonderful for us, and we always just pray for us that we always stay connected. Like, I always just say, hey Nath, मैं आपको कभी भूलूं नहीं and आप मुझे कभी भूलना नहीं. So we are his children and
Yes.
he is our godfather. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranams. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. It was so enlightening early in the morning, as it is Gita Jayanti, to hear these verses of Gita Vira, which are very golden and immortal, which blesses so much. Thank you so much. It was lovely hearing to your voice. Missing Mata. Pranam,
Yes.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for making us to recite these verses. At least we are able to chant along with you recite, because if we do now, we cannot do that. I do remember during Corona period, we all together recited each chapter. Now, Prabhu, you helped us. I do remember each one taken as a one chapter, and we recite the sloka. And wherever we stuck up, you are helped us that day. I do remember still now. And giving the essence. So how Krishna gave the essence in 4 slokas of 10th chapter. You held up our hand, and then understanding the overview of each chapters. It's very precise. The way you describe the different section as well. It is very precise, Prabhu. It is very helpful. I have to watch the recording again to enlighten my knowledge as well. It's very, very helpful. Thank you so much. Happy Gita Jayanti, Prabhuji, and happy Ekadashi as well tomorrow for you. Hare Krishna.
Happy Gita Jayanti, happy Ekadashi. Hare Krishna. Yes, Satya Dharma Prabhu.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this session, taking so much of time of yours and early morning on Gita Jayanti. Actually, I was prepared for chanting session, so I was ready to join for a chanting session. But we are fortunate that we got this on Gita Jayanti, that we got to hear the shlokas from your lotus mouth, and also like in case like you have said as one tip as well, like in case like if anyone is not have time to recite all the shlokas, you say like 12 and 15 shlokas. If you recite all shlokas, then it's like it's equal. That's very very wonderful, Prabhuji. And as Mataji said, like we are missing Mataji. So Hare Krishna, thank you so
Yes.
much.
Kalasudha is in Mayapur and she is actually reciting the whole Bhagavad Gita. There is a festival in Mayapur, Gita Sammelan, where all the devotees in Mayapur come together and recite the Bhagavad Gita together. So she is participating in that right now.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam.
This is Uma. I am in India currently, and it was so wonderful. I had the opportunity to listen on Gita Jayanti. It's so wonderful. I didn't realize that it was 1.5 hours. You were like so rapid. It felt like 15 minutes to me. It didn't feel like an hour and a half. Thank you so much for enlightening us again and again, Prabhuji.
Thank you. That shows that you are so absorbed. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class.
Can I say Hare Krishna, Prabhu? Thank you so much for this wonderful session early in the morning. I am in the kitchen in the morning, so my video is off. Please excuse me.
Yeah.
And your japa sessions also, even if I want to join in the morning, I am in the kitchen. So I keep doing it in my mind. I don't have the beads in my hand. I hope that is okay.
Yes, that's fine.
That's fine. And also today,
But
is it
however,
Huh.
in the japa session, we request everyone to put their video on so that we can inspire each other, and those who are chanting, we are attentive, because as soon as camera is on, we are attentive. But if camera is off, sometimes our mind may not be as attentive. So we request only those who are able to keep their camera on and chanting, so everyone can be inspired. But that's why we are having twice a day, 1 hour in the morning from India time. India time it is 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. And US time it's. So if you are able to maybe join with video on and chanting attentively from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. India time, that is US time 6 to 7 a.m. Central time, that would also be good.
I will try, because I have some classes in the evening at that time. So the days I'm able to, I'll put on my video. Otherwise, morning I'm in the kitchen and I don't want the whole world to see that I am cooking. And my husband leaves very early for work, so I have to attend to his things. But nevertheless,
Sure.
I'm always chanting when I'm cooking. And also, I wanted to ask you that Gita, today, usually on Gita Jayanti, I try to read the whole Bhagavad Gita. Like, I don't chant, I read it. Is it,
Yeah.
can we break it into parts and like get up and do, or at one time only we should do it?
Yeah, you can break it into parts. You can do six chapters, in the morning, afternoon, evening, like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So if God's grace is there today also, I want to do it. Let's see how much He
Yes.
makes me do. उनको कितनी सेवा चाहिए, हम तो बहुत छोटे हैं, हम क्या उनको जितनी सेवा चाहिए वो लेते हैं.
सही बात है.
Yes.
बहुत
Thank you
धन्यवाद.
so much I really look forward to your morning discussions, because it calms my mind so much and my whole day starts so well listening to you and Kalasudha Mataji talking. You are really blessed. You have Saraswati in your mouth. Really, I'm telling you.
Hare
The way
Krishna.
you sing bhajans, the way you involve us, we feel as if we are living Krishna Leela. जब आप चैतन्य चरितामृत बोल रहे थे तो लग रहा था हम देख रहे हैं अपनी आंखों से. You have the gift. Really. Krishna's mercy is on you, really, I'm telling you.
Thank you. It is all by the grace of Guru and Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. So it's all glories to them. But thank you so much. We are glad that we could be of some insignificant service to inspire you in bhakti. Hare Krishna.
You have been a very significant part in my path to bhakti and to understanding little bit of Radharani's glories. So thank you so much for that always. I never put on my audio video because I'm always in the kitchen. But today I thought, let me pause and let me at least thank you for the path that I have been able to go because of your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Hare
comments.
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Happy
Krishna.
Gita Jayanti. Gita
Happy
Jayanti
Gita
की
Jayanti.
शुभकामनाएं सबको.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna
you.
Mataji.
And thank you for the wonderful session. We really feel blessed and fortunate to hear this. And we look forward to tomorrow's session also.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Okay, if there are no other questions or... Yes, go ahead, Prabhu. Tristan?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class.
Thank you for joining. Wonderful. It's always wonderful to see you, and I'm so inspired by when you joined the japa session and you're chanting so attentively, your whole family, Amrita Radhika Mataji and everyone else, including yourself. It's very, very inspiring for everyone. Thank you for your example.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, thank you so much, and happy Gita Jayanti to everyone. Let's prepare our consciousness to to welcome Shri Krishna's instructions in our hearts and minds. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo
namo namaha.
Nanda Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Pranams, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Happy
Hare
Gita
Krishna.
Jayanti.
Happy Gita Jayanti.